Hour 2 Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Brought to you by FanDuel. Bryan Hayes, Wagland, Frankie, Corrado. Got a big hour. Mike Johnson will join us here in a few moments. His take on the Leaf game last night. If you didn't watch, you'd think, all right, 6-5 in overtime.
Yeah.
But if you watched, it was quite something.
If you didn't watch, you'd have no idea just looking at that box score. Oh, man.
I was thinking about it last night in anticipation of today. When they were down 5-0, even when they were down 3-0, 4-0, I'm like, not going to go yell and scream tomorrow. Not going to hoot and holler. Like, they've played really well, and you think about the circumstances that they've had to play through. All the players with the flu and the banged up decor and the travel, the back-to-backs, the father's trip, all that stuff. It's like, all right, they've proven they've overcome some adversity this year. We'll throw them a bone, right? And then they come back, 5 goals in the third period. You're like, we're back, baby. Like, let's go yell and scream tomorrow about something.
I know. I mean, I think it's just the entertainment value is what you can yell and scream about. And all I could think of while they were charging back was how many people left the game. Like, if you were there, especially if you had kids or something.
Traffic.
Oh, it's 5-0 kids. You're like, we're out of here. And you're in the car, and like Bonesy and Ralphie, I heard the clips online last night. Great calls. Like, just building up. Like, early on, they're kind of, there's one. You never, like, sarcastically, like, the comeback is on. There's 2, there's 3. And then all of a sudden, it was like, Matthews makes it 5-4. Bonesy's hanging from the rafters. And then he makes it 5-5. And he's like, he's basically, he's almost in a mosh pit down there with the crowd. It was wild.
Yeah.
Crowd surfing. That would be great. Bonesy just with a mic on. Crowd surfing.
Bonesy would love it.
5-5.
Oh, yeah. He'd have his, like, Notre Dame suit on with the tie.
Yes.
Yeah, he'd love it.
Like how they get the flag up before the game. It's just Bonesy doing the wave and the
all the
call.
way around.
By the way, speaking of the flag, have you heard, like, there's been a rash of, like, national anthems, Canadian national anthems, just being botched in the States recently?
Yeah, twice in the last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Where it's like really awful.
Yes, not even close.
Not even close
How bad
to
are
the
we
lyrics.
talking here? Like
Not good. Like
somebody forgot the lyrics?
forgot the lyrics, forgot the order in which the lines of the song go, like making up their own stuff and then trying to find it. Yeah, exactly. The melodies were off. I don't know. It's like, do we need to do the national? We need to do the national anthem before every NHL game.
I agree.
If they stop doing it, if they stop doing it at sporting events, period, no one would even notice in 2 or 3 years.
No one would miss it.
Nobody would even notice in 2 or 3
International hockey makes sense. You're playing for the flag. You're playing for your country. And then people are getting upset. And rightfully so, because it's our national anthem, and people are getting upset. It's like, listen, you're our neighbors to the south. Like, we're a real country, despite what you think. Like, can you get it right?
No, it's not an excuse for getting the song wrong.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a professional anthem singer, you need to know the lyrics of the anthems you're singing.
But why not just have the words out? Like, at some ball stadiums, you'll see on, like, one of the scoreboards or tickers that's going around, they have the words up.
Like karaoke
and
anthem?
So if they're right there. But I mean, let's be honest. I don't know if you guys I have had to sing the national anthem in front of a large group of people.
By yourself?
Where?
So long story short, I competed in a pseudo media edition of The Amazing Race a few years ago with Gurdeep Ahluwalia, who is my partner.
Yeah.
Who showed up in like dress pants. I was like, dude, we're running. Let's go. One of the things was you had to go downtown to one of these little ballparks, and it was like filled with people. And you had to sing not just the national anthem, the bilingual version of the national anthem in front of a microphone. And G looks at me and he's like, you're up.
Oh, man.
When you are staring at a bunch of people and have to sing in front, and I'm not a singer, no one wanted to hear that. It's tough.
I would not be able to do the bilingual version.
You get nervous. You start to question, is this line next or is this line next?
Was that part of your OHL rookie initiation, singing the national anthem in front of a packed movie theater? Because it was mine.
No, I don't remember doing that.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't do it at like the movies or anything like that.
We had to go Tuesday night, the cheap night they do at the movie theaters.
Huge in the O. Tuesday night movie is massive.
And in Sudbury, like Toonie Tuesday in Sudbury.
Big time.
Jam-packed, new release, and there we are, all the rookies. Have to get everyone's attention in the crowd, and there's previews and stuff playing, so you gotta you got to really belt it out. And so you finally get everyone's attention, and there's like 4 of us, and we got to belt out the national anthem for like 2 minutes.
Right.
And then we got like a big round of applause, but I had never been more petrified of something.
It's great that you had other guys up there.
Yeah.
Like if you're the only rookie on the team and they still make you go up, like that is really damaging and really tough.
Yeah.
But the bilingual would be difficult.
That's why I'll never hold it against someone who messes up the words, because when you're nervous, I've been singing that national anthem my entire life.
I know, but you're not a professional anthem singer. You were not employed.
But I'm a professional Canadian.
No, I get
know
that.
every word.
I get that. Did you know you were gonna have to sing it like when you were?
No,
you got down there.
We didn't know until we got to the stadium. They're like,
jammed up.
You got to do it, and I did it. You know why? So they flagged me on it, and you had to go back to the end of the line and wait until your turn again to go. I sung that song flawlessly. They caught me on a pronunciation of one of the French words at the very end, and I was like, come on.
Greasy.
So did you end up being on the show, or did they cut you because of that?
No, so it wasn't to be on the show. It was like basically a media day to promote the upcoming season. We weren't really competing. We weren't going to be on TV.
So it was like a promotion. You were like promotional tools.
Essentially. But you know me, I take things way too seriously.
I'll bet you MJ could belt out a nice anthem. Like crisp, clean, no pronunciation issues.
I think you might be right, but he's an amateur singer. Kara's an amateur singer. Like I think we're missing the point that these are professional.
But they often get really young people to do it too.
But you still have a responsibility to get the anthem right. Like we're not asking you to sing a Taylor Swift song. Like it's the anthem.
But it's not their anthem.
Well, I'm assuming it is.
I guess that's the thing. It's like, listen, like
but then don't take the job.
We're a serious country up here. Get it right. It's our national anthem. Let's have some respect for it.
We don't have to take it so personally.
They wouldn't like it the other way.
We do though. That's what we do.
I take it personally.
So personally,
I take it personally.
We should just eliminate it from NHL game, like unless it's international games.
Yeah, I can reason with that.
I agree.
Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Twitter Hotline. What's up, Johnny?
Listen, if you don't know the words, don't apply for the gig.
Right.
Like that. And if you're too young to know the words, I understand that. I had young kids one time. Then don't apply for the gig. And it's not about being kind of small-minded, Canadians like, oh, don't forget about us. It's like just 2 songs.
Yeah.
Just get it right.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
It's our
you don't
anthem.
have to sing it properly. I mean, you don't have to sound great. Just get the words right. It's not that hard. I'm 100% with you, Hayes. Like, if you can't do that, then they shouldn't be asking you to do it, period.
Exactly. I think it's so Canadian that we're actually allowing it. It's so Canadian that we're like, oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
It's okay. Get it next time.
Sorry about your mistake. It's only our anthem we're asking you to sing.
Can you imagine if we were botching the American anthem 4 times in a week?
Oh, Americans would freak down there.
Would they even know?
So.
I don't even think they would know.
Not.
They wouldn't care. They'd be like, oh, what's Canada?
Well, they goof on Canada is what they'd probably do. They goof on the Canadian singer.
On a couple of those news stations down there.
Right. That's right. It'd be Biden's fault. Look at Biden's America is ruining the anthem at sporting events.
Yeah.
That's probably what would happen.
Around the world has dropped so much that they can no longer even know their anthem.
Right. So last night, the Leafs Blue Jackets, as we've said earlier, I think, depending on what side of the ledger you're on with the Leafs, you could make both cases, right? If you're pessimistic, you're like, look at the first 40 minutes. If you're optimistic, look at the third period. Where do you stand on it?
Well, like always, Hayes, I'm down the middle with both make sense. Both things can be true. The first 40 minutes were tough. Now, we understand that teams have bad games, and or 82 games, like even the worst teams are going to win 40% of them. So, it happens. It happens all the time. It's nothing to be panicked about. We'll give them credit for the comeback. The fact that their big guys are as good as any big guys in the league and have been all year long. I think that is reassuring, the idea that they can go in after the second period saying, and maybe believing we can get 5, and then going out and doing it. Like, that is all great. And it's not so much that they played poorly that I would be concerned about in the first 40, because, those games happen. It's that the goaltender, who has been a long-standing reason for concern this year, looked not like the guy who played really well against Nashville and was not too bad against the Islanders. He looked like the guy who really struggled the first 25 games of the season. So that's the concern. Like, if I'm going to be pessimistic, that would be the trouble spot for me. It's not that they played poorly, gave up chances, and got down a whole bunch of goals. It's that the goaltender, who you were hoping was on track to find his game, sort of regress back to what he had shown previously. And with Woll hurt, that to me is the biggest takeaway. That's troublesome about last night's game.
Do you like the decision to keep him in the net? Like, I think it just sends a message to him. It's like, you got to find a way to play through it. We can give you all the video. You can work with the goalie coach all you want, but you got to figure this out, man, for yourself and for the team.
I mean, you got to know the athlete, right? Like, I don't know how Samsonov responds to these kind of things, where his head's at. Part of me would say, man, you've sucked. We're taking you out. Like, I'm making the point of it. The other way, where like I'm not going to massage, like, hey, you got to work through it. We're here with you. Like, no, your job is to stop the puck. You haven't done that well enough. You're out. We're going to put somebody else in there who could. But you need to know the athlete. Whichever one is going to make him feel better going forward, because presumably by goal 4 or 5, you're conceding the game, even though they got a point. Like, the coach is not thinking that way. He's thinking, okay, this game's gone. What's going to set us up better for next game? If you think that pulling him will hurt his confidence or frustrate him more, then you ride him out. If you think it might motivate him to be sort of embarrassed getting pulled after a tough start, then I would pull him. Whatever's going to make him better. But either way, it's concerning. It's concerning.
Yeah, it is.
The highs have been high with him, but I guess this is sort of some of the reputation of Washington. The lows, unfortunately, get pretty low with him as well.
Well, that's why they didn't sign him to a long-term deal. They took him to arbitration.
You know what? Like, for all the talk about how the salary structure Leaf is made up, credit where credit's due. And I think we had this conversation about, well, I don't know, why would you take him to arbitration? Pretty good goalie, be in the same spot next year. Seems to be like a pretty heady decision to either wait to see what Joseph Woll could be before committing to Samsonov, or waiting to see what Samsonov could do year 2 before committing to Samsonov. It seems like it was a pretty smart decision to take him to arbitration and then buy yourself more flexibility.
So do you go with Martin Jones tomorrow night?
Yes.
I think so, too. I think it should be mandatory. Like, you don't even think twice, personally.
Yeah, I didn't delay too much. I mean, part of the reason you got Martin Jones, veteran guy, experienced guy, he's been around, he's seen a lot. He won't be overwhelmed by being thrust into that situation. Yeah, I would. You don't want to punt on Samsonov at all. Like, you're still invested in him being good, right? Like, you don't want to concede the season as though, now, you know what, we're going to forget about him trying to be part of this equation. He still needs to be, even when Woll gets back and healthy, which they hope is not too long away. They'll still need Samsonov to play 4 out of 10 games to protect Woll before the playoffs. So you don't want to just act like he's not there, but I don't know. I mean, after that performance, I don't know why you would go back. And Martin Jones wasn't too bad against the Rangers. He picked up the win. He's done a lot of winning in his career. I think I would go to Jones.
All right, MJ. I don't think any of us saw the Leafs beating the Rangers when they did. I don't think we saw last night coming against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So what are your expectations for Saturday with Kyle Dubas back in town against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have finally found their power play?
Yeah, well, listen, I would be over because the Ranger game I probably would have got wrong, and the Blue Jacket game I would have got wrong. But I think that they'll be better. I think getting a point out of Columbus in a game where they played poorly should sort of wake them up to whatever they might be going through mentally, kind of focus-wise. And I think they'll be better. I'm curious, though, Frankie, if you would say, like, does the Kyle Dubas return, do you think that matters to the guys? Like, these guys, they don't have any problem with Kyle Dubas. They all got real rich and played really well and scored a bunch of goals with him. So I'm not sure why they would, but I just don't know what the reaction of the team player might be to Dubas' return. Is that some sort of extra motivation? I don't know.
I kind of see it as a little bit of a nothing burger, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, he was really good for them. He gave those guys good money, fair deals. I've dealt with Kyle. He was always great to me. He's really good communicator with all the guys. So I kind of see it as it's another game against the Pens, and Kyle Dubas is in town. It'll be nice to see him, and hopefully we can get a win. I don't think there's any animosity, because why would there be? He treated them well.
But wouldn't there be more motivation, MJ, on the Pittsburgh side? Like, Penguins coming in, they are probably more motivated to get this win for Kyle.
I don't care about my GM that much. You know what I mean? Like,
you gotta know Kyle feels a certain way, though. The new guy, they want to get the win for him.
You'll get booed next time you're on the ice.
Well, you know what'll happen though. There might be a little something on the whiteboard before the game, and it'll say team dinner, and that could be something that you want to play for.
For sure. Like, listen, you want to be a good person, but there's no like deep rooted motivation to get Kyle Dubas a win. I think the motivation is that Pittsburgh's not played great. They're out of the playoffs. They're trying to get back into it. That's the motivation, not like let's get one for Kyle or get one for Spez or whatever. I think it's just let's just get one because we need one. The team dinner would be on the board for sure. But I don't know. I mean, stars nowadays maybe have a closer relationship with GMs. It was always more professional, never that personal between GMs when I was on a team.
Let's be honest, Johnny. Was it one of those things where you saw the GM walking in the hallway and you might even look the other way as to not engage in any kind of conversation, like out of sight, out of mind, please don't notice me?
When I was young, like, can you imagine like when Ken Dryden was rolling around or Mike Smith? I'm like, oh, please, please, please don't have me at the Christmas party, corner me. Like, I don't want to talk to these guys. As you get older, you get a bit more comfortable. But I do think today's athletes do get more communication out of the upper management than maybe there was in the late 90s. But, I've been on teams that have replaced GMs and new GMs have come in and, like, you know, I care what the team looks like. I don't really worry about what your feelings are.
But Mike Johnson, so it was a wild scene in St. Louis last night. Crazy scene where, you know, Craig Berube had been let go a couple of days ago, and Jordan Kyrou was asked about his relationship with Berube. He said, no comment, not my coach anymore. And there was obviously deeper context to that, but that goes viral. The fans don't like it. He gets booed when he's touching the puck last night. Then he gets really emotional after the game. He's crying in the scrum. I mean, it was a wild turn of events. Like, what do you make of what you saw last night?
So I'm of so many different minds about this. One, like, I don't have a problem with him being sort of snippy and passive-aggressive about Berube. If they had a tough relationship or was a bit fractured at the end and he's not that upset that he has a new coach, I'm okay with someone saying that, like, you know, or alluding to that in his answer. It's shocking, too, that fans would choose a fired coach over a star player in who they want to support going forward. Like, when does that happen? A coach gets fired because the team's struggling. I guess Bruce Boudreau was kind of supported by the fans, but not at the expense of a player. Like, they're choosing a guy who led the team to a bad record over the guy who's the future of the franchise in Kyrou, who's been an all-star, et cetera, et cetera. And then 3, if you're going to put yourself out there with the snippy, he's not my coach comment, you got to be prepared to be asked about it. And if you know that you are wired emotional, maybe you don't want to bring that spotlight on yourself. If it's going to bother you so much that you get booed or that you get asked about it, maybe you should have just gone with the stock. You know what? I wish him all the best. He was great for me. It didn't work. I got to be better myself, and, you know, we're working on tomorrow. But if if you're going to shine a light on yourself, you kind of need to know how you will react under that spotlight. And I was stunned. Like, I get it wouldn't be nice to be booed by your home crowd. Like, I understand that sentiment, but to be moved to tears, and I guess I'm also okay with him being vulnerable. And if he feels like crying or expressing himself, like, I don't want to come down on him for that. But I know when I played, like when I got traded from the Leafs to Tampa, like, I felt like crying. It was that upsetting to me, right? But I never would have let the media see me cry, because I wouldn't want people to have the satisfaction to know that I was that upset. Mm-hmm. That might not be the healthiest. But, like, on some level, that's how I would approach, even if I was totally rattled, upset, moved to tears by the team, by the fans booing me, I wouldn't want to let them see it bother me that much. So I feel for him, human being under there and everything else, but a little bit brought it on himself. And if he's sensitive like that, which is more than okay, maybe he should have gone a different way with the first comment.
On the other side of that game, the story continues for the Ottawa Senators, who have all these games in hand, but I don't know, Johnny. It just seems like it's going to be an insurmountable hill for them to climb here in order to get themselves even within striking distance of a playoff spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, if they won the games in hand, they would be right there. But they're going to go at Dallas tonight, back-to-back. That's really tough. It feels like, Frankie, every time if they take a step forward, they then take one back or two back. They just can't get any real positive momentum going. And when you watch the game against St. Louis last night and watch the defensive zone miscues that they can't compensate for with the high power.
That fourth goal, Johnny, that one off the rush, was that Buchnevich? That was crazy. First of all, the back check of the two guys, and then Stützle.
That was Tarasenko and Brady, and then Stützle doing, not quite sure what to do. And it's like the defenders have their sticks upside down when we do those drills with their sticks upside down. Like, just do it super slow developing just because you can overpass it if you want. When you see stuff like that, Frankie, I know you watch them a lot, like, that's on the players always.
Yes.
But it's also on the coach because it's been that way for 3-4 years. It's been loose. It's been disjointed. It just hasn't been consistent. I don't know. I don't think they want to change anything else in Ottawa given what's happened this year already, but
what do you do, Johnny? Do you take away ice time from those guys? Like, can you imagine DJ just starts saying, Timmy, you're not going on the ice for a whole period because I'm pissed off about that. Like, I don't know if he does that kind of maneuver.
That ship has sailed.
That you've already empowered the guys to play how they want because they keep getting out there. They've got the contracts they need. And you'll love Brady Tkachuk, right? He gets in a fight. He challenges his own bench to be better. But Brady's not a great defensive player either. As much as you love Brady Tkachuk, like you could watch him play like that's not a great decision. That's not a great coverage. Like their best players are just not good defensive players. But by nature, which means they got to be coached into that, which, again, these are your guys. You got to get them to do it better. And if you can't, it's going to be the coach that gets the fall as opposed to the players right now. And I know it's almost Christmas time. They got this 5-game road trip. Game 2 of it, I think, is tonight. Mm-hmm. If they go 1-4.
It's over. Yeah, it's over. And then it's like a mercy thing. Like, for me, if you're DJ Smith and you're watching St. Louis get a new coach bump, that's the worst thing you could see.
Minnesota,
Edmonton, right. Like all these teams are getting new coach bumps, and you got to believe Staios and Andlauer and Ottawa saying, man, it probably would happen here. But if I'm a fan, I'm starting to spin it like, is the new owner punting on the season? Like, is he just saying, these aren't my people. I've already done enough with Dorian. I've lost Pinto. Greg's hurt. Staios is going to take the rest of the season to evaluate, and he'll never say that publicly, but I can't get away from that thought that it's like, screw it. Just, we've gone this far. Let's play it out, and then we'll make our changes at the end of the year.
Feels like we'll know in 3 weeks, won't we?
Yeah, I guess.
Like if they go status quo the rest of the year, then I think they've elected to
they punted.
Like we need to see what we don't have other options. We don't want to be too much. If they don't, then they haven't. I was always of the mind, Hayes, the other way, though, that they won't. Like, Andlauer, you watch him. That guy is intense when he watches a game for a billionaire owner. Like, he is right into it like a fan. I don't think they want to punt. I think they want to build something, fan engagement, all of it, with a good young team. I don't think they want to just say, well, wasn't our year. I don't think they're at that point.
Yeah, and listen, they still have a number of games in hand. They're committed to all these players, but this roadie, again, in Dallas tonight, I think they go through Colorado, Vegas.
They got Vegas,
Arizona.
yeah.
Arizona,
you know what they need to think
tough,
about here
man.
at some point? Like, if it really goes south for them on this road trip and they come home and the fans are really angry, remember, Johnny, this would have been probably 10 years ago when the Vancouver fans were adamant they had to fire Mike Gillis, and they were making signs and they were chanting, and it got really, really ugly. Like, if they're going to put DJ in that position, then they just got to make a mercy fire. As much as I hate to say it, but you're just like, it's a mercy thing. You got to take the guy out of the situation for his own good.
What the Chargers just did with Staley. They're like, we can't have this. And again, it's not that bad with Ottawa. It's not. It's nowhere close. No. But Ottawa, this was supposed to be a year they turn it around. They're dead last in the division. Based on points percentage, it's a little bit different. But they had a soft schedule, home games. They barely played on the road. And
they're 17-7.
Yeah.
Home road.
That's
they're
wild.
Supposed to be comfortably in the playoffs, and it gets harder here. Not charge back towards the playoffs while it gets harder. Yeah, and I guess you would ask the coaches. They would never say, don't give me the firing. I don't want a mercy firing. I want the job. I want to work it through and work it out. But I also wonder if, like, these things can take a life of their own. Like, if it goes south and it becomes a thing to boo, signs, chant, whatever, then it like perpetuates upon itself, and it gets more and more miserable for DJ, the staff, the team, and all of it. And a new owner also doesn't want to see his clients, his fans, reacting that way to the team.
Well, I think there's a Canadian example. which would be in Vancouver last year, where you could tell Bruce Boudreau was a dead man walking. It was just a matter of time. And it was much more vitriolic because, like, remember Jim Rutherford had said some stuff publicly. Like, it was ugly. It got to a point where I thought it was a really bad look for Vancouver. But they made the choice to move off him. They brought in Tocchet. Tocchet got a head start, and it's paying off this year. And it's paying off in spades. I mean, they beat Florida 4-0 last night. Demko's
They look great.
Arrived, yes. Yeah. Like, he is a
They were good last night.
They were really good
last night.
Like, I keep trying to figure this team out because it kind of – they had a better start than what Jersey had to start last year, but it feels like this year's version of Jersey in the West.
With a better goalie.
Better goalie, but kind of came out of nowhere, but tons of skill, tons of talent. They play fast, and it's working for them. I mean, Vancouver, they've banked enough where they're going to the playoffs, like, clearly. But are they clear? Are they contenders? Like, I'm not there yet. I don't see them getting through the West, personally.
No, I don't. And the path matters, right? They're in the Pacific. They're going to play L.A. in the first round. They're going to play Vegas, L.A. or Edmonton in the first round. I would take them even today as an underdog against any of those teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no, like, they're really, really good, but they're probably in the second tier. If the top tier is Vegas and LA and Florida and Colorado, if that's your top four, maybe. I'm not quite a big bullish on the Rangers like some people might be. And then the next tier would be Vancouver and the Rangers and
Dallas
and Toronto, like those kind of teams that are good, but they're a little bit imperfect. They would be in that group. So yeah, getting out of the Pacific Division will be a nightmare if you don't come first, or maybe even if you do, you might get Edmonton.
That's what's
in the
wild.
First round, which would be miserable if they're playing really well.
Which I expect that they will. I mean, I thought Edmonton was great last night. They were
awesome.
55 shots or something like that.
If you're Tampa, are you walking out of that building saying, "All right, we're back, boys"? Because Vasilevsky was amazing. Or are you saying, "Gee, we got pumped.
Yeah.
We got dummied.
Got away with
thank God we got a good goalie, but we got dummied. Like, that's not what we're supposed to do.
No.
Tampa's another one, Johnny. Like, the window seems like it's closing on them. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's not impossible. What's troublesome if you're watching Tampa is, like, they need a brilliant performance from one of their great players to win games. Now, the good news is they got a lot of great players, and they can give a lot of brilliant performances. But if that's what you need to win, Stamkos with 4, Kucherov snapping it around, power play getting 3, Vassy standing in his head, that's not real sustainable great team. That's great players, which are good enough for the regular season, but probably not in the playoffs.
Watch those bike lanes, Johnny.
Yeah, be
Who'd you
careful
just
out
cut
there.
off?
I walk, they stop, and honk. That's what happens.
Okay. That's sending a vibe out.
They're not going to hit me.
Look at you getting cat calls downtown. Good for you, Johnny. Attaboy.
Putting the vibe out there.
You still got it. You still got it. Attaboy. All right, Johnny. Have a good weekend, buddy. We'll do it next week.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Mike Johnson joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory arriving daily. It's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com.
Wouldn't it be great if Johnny just lost where he was for a second and just went ballistic on someone and forgot he was doing a hit with us? You just forget for a sec what you're doing and you just go ballistic.
Just completely blank and start snapping on somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Listen, it's a beautiful night. I don't know if he's in Toronto or where he is. I would assume he's at home.
That horn sounded like a downtown
That was
Toronto.
a Toronto horn.
That was a downtown Toronto, the light's already yellow, get across the road.
Yeah, that was an ignorant horn. That was just an ignorant. I told you at 4, man. I saw a guy on a motorcycle on the 401 mid-December.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's anarchy.
Yeah, it is. It's a wild scene right now. All right, so thanks to Mike Johnson. We got Luke Wilson coming up in about a half an hour. Al's brother will be in here as well. The Immaculate Week, it began last night. Hayes and Bro were on Vegas. One of the great picks of the season. Let's call it what it was. Right? I mean, that was a dominant performance. I don't want to gloat. Al's brother's very happy in there.
I mean, you guys... You pulled off a big one, but there was a lot of luck involved because I don't think anyone saw that coming.
There's Al's brother. Yeah, you're right. It was not the most decisive pick of the year. Let's call it what it was. It was a borderline coin flip that really broke her way. But it's not how, it's how many, and we got one last night. So Luke's coming up in about a half an hour. Raptors in action tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, we have a serious infraction here. Frankie Corrado's in here. I'm Bryan Hayes. Kara Wagland's supposed to be in here, but she's not back yet.
Has this ever happened on the show?
It's happened. Usually it's Noodles who will... Noodles, this is a little bit of behind-the-scenes trivia for OverDrive fans. when we're in here, he orders food every single day.
Yeah.
From the Cav.
Yeah.
And he gets the same thing every single time. It's like a chicken burger with nothing on it.
Yeah.
Fries that he barely eats. There's Kara. Come on in, Kara, whenever you're ready. It's all good. Sports Center starting at 103.
I mean, to be fair, no one in LA really cares about the I'm Angels. surprised it took this long.
Yeah, it's all good. But it doesn't matter. We're just having a conversation.
We actually ran into each
In my
other in the
defense,
hallway.
I ran into Frankie and was like, how much time we got? And he's like,
Yeah.
you got like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
How would
okay.
Frankie know?
Hold on,
Frankie-
here we
But
go.
he said it with such confidence.
I went to go fill up my water bottle. I saw Wag. She was heating up her coffee, and she goes, "How long do we have?" And I know this break is 4:30, but time had elapsed already.
Right.
So I said 4:30, not taking into account that we're probably 2.5 into the break.
That's the thing, man.
Yeah.
You got to have the
I heard
internal
4:30.
clock.
I'm like, I got time to hit the restroom. Let's
Yeah.
go.
You
So
got to have the
that's
internal
partly
clock.
like I can't help but feel it's partly my fault because I said
Yeah.
4:30.
I think
but
it's 100% your fault.
I thought you grasped that like it was 4:30 for the whole break.
So what you're suggesting is, Kara, when you said 4:30, Kara would think she had 4 minutes left from that moment you said it, as opposed to all-encompassing
Given
break.
what's transpired
Yes.
just now, that's how I feel.
Communication
about it.
breakdown.
Because if I would have said a minute and a half, she probably would have been here.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
I knew I was kind of close.
Yeah.
But I figured he wouldn't have been as nonchalant as he was with
Yeah.
the 4:30 if we were getting close to the end of the time.
You didn't miss
And so I
anything.
figured,
in
well-
substance.
No.
I was just telling people, like, because Frankie asked, how often do people get back late? And it does happen sometimes.
I've had it happen to me on the CTV show with NFL on Sundays. We were always up after live games, so you're up at a different time every time. And sometimes the games take a little longer to draw out. And, we're usually yelling up to each other in Studio 9. Okay, we're, a minute away, whatever. And there was a miscommunication with Davis a couple times. And he came down, he missed the on, and Luke was remote. So he wasn't even there. And Davis comes in and he goes, what do you mean? Like, I didn't think we were up this quick. He was upstairs just primping himself in the bathroom, like not even doing anything. He's
Right.
like, I was just taking another look.
that's a
Making
that's a
sure he looks
dangerous
good.
game,
Just making sure he's good to go.
Nothing wrong with
People
that.
are chiming in now. So my
no.
wife just texted me and she
Oh, no.
goes, "It's your fault." Poor
Thank you.
Kara.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're reliant, but I'd say there's some fault on your end because Frankie, how would Frankie know how much time is exactly left on the break?
Here's the thing, though. I don't
I think
get
you're both guilty
to
here.
do the show that often, so I rely on you guys
Right.
to keep me honest when it comes to
Listen,
timing of things.
I'm-
I said to you before I left, is this a break where we have a lot of time? You're like, yeah, we got a few minutes.
Yeah, I said a
Very
few minutes.
nonchalantly.
Yeah,
I
if
run
you
into
go-
Frankie. Yeah, we got 4:30.
There's a couple things going on here too. Like a lot of times, this is our lineup, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes the lineup has the break times, so it's,
Right.
you leave. It's like, oh, I got 4:25. You don't notice it until it's like in your subconscious.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep.
There's
in
no
mind
break
for
times
future
here,
shows.
Doogie.
Doogie.
Yeah, Doogie at times can have a mishap with the,
If I
with the
listen,
lineup.
I'm detail oriented. If it was on the lineup as a SportsCenter host, I would have been back here
You
in
want to
ample
defend
time.
yourself, Doogie?
This is on me now.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I'm going 70% Doogie, 20% Frankie, 10% Hayes, because
Not
you were both way too
70
nonchalant.
Doogie.
Wait
Wow.
a minute. Nothing is on yourself?
No,
You don't get 1%
I am
of the
the
blame.
person who does this timing of this show the
Okay.
least.
Yes,
so
that's
I
true.
am
Right.
relying on my teammates here.
I understand that, but I think you can give yourself 1%.
I'll take 2%.
Yeah.
All right, 2%. 2%.
Let me ask you guys something. How do you kind of, if you're going back and forth with someone on text messages and then you're like, I got to phase this conversation out. Like, is there a move you have that you kind of like, this is, they'll get the message here. Like, I think we're good for today.
Well, I think the thumbs up,
Yeah.
like of the final text, like that, when it started being implemented into texting, like where you can, click on it and put an exclamation point, ha ha, thumbs up,
Yeah.
thumbs down, or whatever. I always thought that was goofy. I'm like, why would I use that? And now I see why, because I think that is the finality of a conversation.
Right.
I think
Is a
too,
thumbs up.
when those texts start to get fewer and fewer and like one word answers, you need to honestly understand that that's
Yeah.
the conversation winding
Yeah.
down.
I love it. Doogie, when he is on the ball, he's got a lot of info. We're going back and forth all day. It's great. Like, he is very well prepared when
Yes.
he does the show. We got to a certain point today where I think I was good. Like, I had been briefed. And I just send the green check mark.
Yeah, that's
and
enough.
I thought, I think we're good there. And Doogie didn't send anything back. And I think he picked up on
Okay,
that.
so he stopped at the stop sign.
I think
That's
he was.
good.
I think
Doogie-
he's very astute. He's very on the ball.
Doogie's figuring things out. Yeah, except for, the brakes on the lineup.
I mean, Andy Petrillo has now weighed in and texted me, and she is blaming you as well, Frankie. She's saying, don't ever take timing from an Italian.
Oh, so there you go. Then that's Andy almost like blaming herself in a way, I guess. Although I don't recall Andy being late. Like, Andy makes sure she's here on time.
Yeah.
Andy did not miss the beginning of a segment.
I am 9 years in, and that is the first time I've missed a live on.
That's acceptable.
I will say also a developing story from Joe from the Bridge.
Uh-oh.
His control room is near that kitchenette under the stairs. His pad gave us a 90-second count coming back from TV, and you heard Frankie and Kara talking.
So Joe from the Bridge.
If Frankie gave that 4-minute warning, even though we were
90 seconds at that
from
point.
that point,
that's not my fault.
But here's another thing.
Why didn't Joe yell something out?
Yeah, why didn't he step out and say
I think
something?
it's Joe from the Bridge.
15% on Joe from the Bridge.
He gets a percentage.
It doesn't help that it's another Italian.
He's Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
I'm noticing. Listen, I was in the studio the whole time.
Unbelievable.
I was here and prepared.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you see, we got the Raptors in action tonight. The Pistons are on the verge of losing their 22nd straight game.
What?
Yes. They've
what are
lost
we at?
21 in a row.
What's the record again? Do we know offhand?
I believe that they have matched a franchise record with 21 losses in a row, which is remarkable that it's actually happened prior to this. I think it was in 1980.
Yeah.
But I talk about irrelevant franchises all the time, and generally it's based on the records and what you've done, the last 3 or 4 years. And when you think of the Pistons, who have not had a great history, but through, in my lifetime, they had the Isaiah Pistons that won back-to-back and that were a threat. And then you had the 2004 team that ended the dynasty of the Lakers. So you've had two great runs, and now they're just a complete disaster. And they got Cade Cunningham a couple of years ago. They've bottomed out. I guess what I'm driving at is, when we talk about the Raptors and what the plan is, and the frustrations with them making a decision, and are you going to bottom out and trade pieces? That's what you're terrified of. You're terrified of falling into a black hole and you just can't get out.
Where you're setting records for being that
Exactly.
bad.
They have a new building down there that's 4 or 5 years old.
Well, they're at Little Caesars, right?
Yeah, they share it. I think they are.
Yeah,
they used to be at the Palace, but I believe they share it with the Red Wings.
They're in there now. Yes.
So you got a scenario here where they're trying to sell tickets for both teams, and it doesn't matter where they're playing. How can you sell that? How can you sell just constant losing? And
you know what you're watching there? You're taking a look at who they're playing against, and you're like, oh, I want to go see so.
I want to go see Joel Embiid. I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see Jokic, which those guys you're going to see anyways. But if it's just a middle of the pack team, you're like, they got someone that's worth seeing. I'll go see them. I don't know, as a player, they're 2-22 this year. What are you trying to accomplish at the rink every day?
It's a great question.
What are you trying to do there?
And if you're the coach, are you yelling and screaming still? What are you saying anymore that could possibly get a reaction? And I guess, that's kind of the lesson here. With the Raptors. The Raptors are not far ahead of, a lot of bottom-dwelling teams, but they are an eternity ahead of the Pistons.
Yeah.
And the Wizards and the Spurs.
Well, they have desirable players. You go on ESPN or The Athletic today, and you're seeing top trade targets. There's 2 Raptors there.
Yeah.
So they have players that are desirable for other teams. So at least they have that going for them.
Right. And that's, I think, what it speaks to is if you're going to make a move, it's not about tanking. It's about trying to bring in pieces that can allow you to continue to win. You're basically looking at the Rudy Gay deal. Right, where that was a complete accident. I don't believe for a second that they thought they would get better after that deal.
No.
That was a tanking deal. And I think the Wiggins draft was upcoming. There was a big plan about that, and they moved on from Rudy Gay, and everyone they brought in just helped them improve. Immediately they took off. And I'm not suggesting that will happen again here. And I think Siakam most certainly has more value than what Rudy Gay would have at that point. Anunoby maybe not. But I think that's got to be the mentality of the Raptors front office, that if you're going to trade one of those two guys or both, it can't just be massive projects and picks. Ideally, you'd like to trade, let's say you trade both. Maybe one can follow that plan. The other one is bring me back couple of young guys who I think are close to actually contributing.
Yeah, you can't be moving back from the line you've already been at. We're not looking to take a step back in the rebuild. You got to keep moving it forward. I'm not convinced that they can't make it work with those three, with Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG. They played well together against Atlanta. We've seen them playing better when they're on the court together. I mean, they need shooting. If Dennis Schroeder could play the way he did at the beginning of the season, that would help them out a lot. It's the defense that has fallen off that I think no one saw that coming. We knew offensively they were going to struggle this season. Defensively, they've been a defense-first team for years now. So to see the defense playing as bad as they are on all facets, that's where it's like, what do you do?
Well, that's where I think you got to get to the coach, because that's where Nick Nurse just did not accept it, where it was like a military daily addressing of the team. Like, you're going to miss shots, fine. You miss some assignments, on a pick and roll, screens, whatever, how you cut, whatever it's going to be offensively. I can live with that. Defensive mistakes, I cannot.
You know how far
and I will
back
not.
That goes so far back with the Raptors, like to the Dwayne Casey years. I remember, so Thanksgiving every year, Larry Tannenbaum has the Raptors and the Leafs. We do a nice big thing all together mixed in. Both head coaches had to do a little talk to everyone in the room. So Babcock did his. Dwayne Casey did his. Dwayne Casey's was outstanding. He really commanded the room really well. He's a very engaging guy. But he talked about defense at the Thanksgiving dinner. That's how long they've been hammering this home. And that's a long time ago now, but I'm saying it's still kind of the same philosophy here as far as what they need to get out of the group.
That was the culture. You're right. He started, and then Nick Nurse kind of perpetuated, and they kept it going. But that's always kind of been their identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure Darko Rajokovic would prefer they defended better, but it really is on him to make sure that it happens. And I don't know if it can. Dennis Schroeder defensively is really struggling. Their bench is not chock full of defensive shutdown guys. Gary Trent, when he's not in the mood, cannot defend. And yet Darko has this, I think his primary objective right now is to play the bench, is to play an 8, 9, 10-man rotation. And if you get to the 8, 9, 10th guy and they can't defend, they can't play, that's why Nurse wasn't playing guys. Partially because of the offensive issues that some of the bench players were supplying. But I think a lot of it was I don't trust Malachi Flynn in the fourth quarter in a close game to defend the perimeter, or whatever it is. And Darko's, I think, large part of the reason why he got the job was he would committed to playing that.
Yeah.
Playing those guys and playing a deeper bench and a more thorough rotation.
He's also learning,
as a result,
too,
is get hit. Exactly.
He's gonna take
you got to grant him that.
Exactly.
Yes.
He's going to take his lumps along the way. He's a first-time head coach. He's going to have to learn things as time goes on, whereas Nurse, I think, had been more established, won a championship, and he probably said, I already know. I already know what's going on there. I'm not even going to really entertain it, but he's obviously Darko's more open to giving other players an opportunity here.
Nick Nurse, too, he struck me, he was a little more of a savant. He was kind of the Mike McDaniel style where regardless of what the challenge was for the Raptors, I felt confident that he would get back to the drawing board and he would brainstorm and he would figure it out. I don't know enough about Darko Rajokovic yet and his systems to know. He seems to have a very patient approach, and he's not very trigger happy. I mean, I don't think he's looking to make any big moves anytime soon. I mean, even when you see some of the players that are attached to the Raptors, rumor-wise, the trade deadline, I don't know that they're going to make a huge impact. He seems to be preaching patience, as the front office does. So I don't think we're anywhere near seeing what this team is going to give us. I think they're very much in a wait-and-see mode.
2 more wins in a row, pizza party.
That's right.
2 more wins in a row, big pizza party.
You got a big win tonight, and you're that much closer.
I mean, you could do it against Charlotte, too. They got Atlanta and Charlotte.
There you go. Darko putting the company card on the line.
And then Denver.
And then you're in trouble at that point. All right, Luke Wilson will join us in about 20 minutes. Al's brother will be in here as well, looking back on Brandon Staley getting fired in L.A., Chargers, what happened last night, what can we expect this upcoming weekend? Dear Hazy B, my understanding is we're going to do a Dear Hazy B.
Looking forward to it.
Are you?
I love Dear Hazy B. I feel like you guys need a female presence in giving people advice.
We can balance it out a little bit. We'll see.
As we noted in the time debacle that had me miss the odds.
Yes.
You need a responsible figure in these conversations.
We need you here on time for Dear Hazy B. That is a high priority. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Mail It In Friday is brought to you by Boston Pizza's new Square Footer Pizzas. BP is reinventing the wheel with our 3 new Square Footer Pizzas, an entire square foot of more cheese, crunch, and taste. These new pizzas are an absolute must-try at your local BP tonight. Borderline patio weather at Boston Pizza in Toronto tonight.
Beautiful out there.
Yeah.
All the people who can't get out on the course and tee it up today, serious regret.
Yeah, I saw like Bobby Weeks got out there. Duffy obviously got out there.
There were some TSN people playing.
Bunch of TSN representatives out there playing golf.
Did you get your year in review from Golf Canada? Did you take a look at that yet?
No, I haven't checked that out yet. No.
Yeah.
I guess it's on the app. I got to check out the app.
People are posting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many rounds you played? How many yards you played?
Isn't that like a little bit of a humble brag? Like, if you didn't have a good round, I'm not posting my stuff on there. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
I also
need to
saw
open
some
myself
people,
up.
it's like someone played 92 rounds this year, and I'm like, yeah, man.
I think that was muddy.
Good for you. 92 rounds.
Yeah.
Was that muddy?
I think that was muddy. Yeah.
Muddy's the best.
See, that's
Good for him.
I'm nowhere close to that, but I would have a tough time explaining that too. It's like I played 128 rounds.
You don't want to post that if your wife can see it.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
You gotta
Exactly.
out
I'm like,
yourself.
yeah,
Exactly.
I don't need her being like, sorry, I thought I could have sworn you said you were going to the office that day. Like, yeah, about that.
Quick detour.
Yeah.
4-hour detour.
Quick little detour. But
Yeah.
speaking of Golf Canada, I guess we're all in the auction.
Oh
You and
man,
Lindsay
this
and,
is for a great cause.
Great
so I'm
cause.
happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll do anything for Lawrence. He's so amazing in Golf Canada, but man, is it awkward to be being auctioned off.
Yeah.
And just waiting to see like, A, is anyone going to bid on you?
right.
Yeah, I
And
don't
number
think you have to
two,
worry about
who is
that.
going to bid on you?
Yeah, I know. You'll be fine. I think you two will be fine.
I think the round of golf with you and Lindsay is probably going to be a pretty hot ticket on that auction.
Yeah,
No.
it's for the First Tee Foundation, and I'm auctioning off a round as well, and I saw some guy send me a tweet saying I just bid, and the name was like Rick Bushwood with Ally Afraidy Skullet. I'm like, that's what I need. I need
4
for
hours.
4
You're
hours?
hosting
Yeah,
4
I need to
hours of
be
that.
playing with Rick
Yeah.
Bushwood.
I actually am also in that, but I haven't gotten any bids on mine yet.
Hey, let's get it going.
I'm
here,
going to run
Frankie.
your minor hockey team's practice.
Oh, see, that's way better.
There you go.
Exactly. I'm just going to ruin your golf game. Frankie will actually help you.
Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, Cowboys.
That's who I'll be playing with.
What do you do if you get out there and you're with someone for 4 hours? It's for a good cause. Like you want to make the most of it. But I mean, Lindsay and I are slightly concerned that
I understand that, as you should.
our backup plan. I ran into Pooley in makeup the other day, and he said if it ends up being complete creepos, him and Brian Mudryk are on standby as our caddies.
Okay. So there.
So that's our play.
Let's bring this to Dear Hazy B. At
Okay.
6:30.
Yes.
All right. Dear Hazy B coming up. Luke Wilson coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 soon to be up on TSN 2.